You really shouldn't actually be supplementing with calcium while on prednisone? What? That's an AI answer that a prednisone warrior recently got. She reached out to me and she said, "Is this true?" And I thought, wow, I have to make a video debunking this AI result because it is totally misleading. And what's crazy is when I asked a different AI about this result, it said it is misleading and inaccurate. So I'm glad this human isn't the only one realizing how terrible this AI output is. I'm Dr. Megan. I'm a board certified pharmacist and third generation pharmacist and doctor of pharmacy. I've personally taken prednisone and published over 1,600 videos about this topic. So I want to debunk this myth that AI is publishing when you're asking it questions. So let me read what results she got. She said, also, read this. You should not take calcium, chromium, potassium, melatonin, selenium, or vitamin B6 with prednisone, as these supplements can interfere with prednisone's effects or increase the risk of side effects like bone loss. Remember that one, or muscle weakness. It is also advised to be cautious with vitamin D, as it can be affected by prednisone, potentially increasing risks for both the supplement and the drug. Always consult your doctor or pharmacist to avoid potentially harmful interactions between your supplements and prednisone. Wow. I feel like the AI completely flipped the script here. That pretty much that entire list is exactly what you should be supplementing while on prednisone instead of the other way around. And the reason I say that is because the first thing mentioned, calcium, and the last thing mentioned, vitamin D, are specifically recommended by a panel of the world's leading doctors who prescribe prednisone the most. They reviewed all the evidence out there about what prednisone does to your body, specifically and most harmfully, how prednisone causes osteoporosis. They call it glucocorticoid-induced osteoporosis. And they convened this panel that includes doctors and even patients. And they looked at all the evidence and they came up with a guideline to say the evidence shows this, and in real world, we think this, the best way to implement what the studies and science shows. And in that, they specifically say, and I quote, the rheumatologists in the American College of Rheumatology. For adults and children beginning or continuing chronic glucocorticoid treatment at low, moderate, high, or very high risk of fracture, most people on prednisone, we conditionally recommend optimizing dietary and supplemental calcium and vitamin D, in addition to lifestyle modifications. So AI is saying you should not take calcium and vitamin D. And the doctors came together and said, basically everyone should take calcium and vitamin D who's taking prednisone. Based on your specifics, there are a few health situations where that's not a good idea. But basically, everyone should be taking calcium and vitamin D if they're on prednisone. And AI is saying the opposite. So this, I want you to understand, is way too common when it comes to AI. I've asked AI to analyze studies for me. I've asked AI to help me create video outlines. I've asked AI to do many things. I asked it to do some complicated math, predict how much inventory I needed to buy. And it would say one thing in one answer and completely contradict itself in another answer. Do not rely on AI for scientific accuracy, for mathematical accuracy, for anything that really matters to you, because it is going to tell you what you want to hear. I don't know what prompt she gave AI to give it this question, but often it is getting cues from the way you ask the question of how to answer your question. So she might have said, are these dangerous? Or is it scary if she was using words that indicated she had fear, then AI is going to confirm that fear. So that's why it might have said you should not take. Now, if she had asked the opposite, if she'd said, is it wise to, or is it recommended to, or another positive word that her search intent was affirmation that it is already good, she would have found that with AI. That's what is so creepy and terrifying when it comes to AI and your health, is it's going to tell you what you want to hear. If you want it to tell you you're at risk for cancer, it'll tell you that. It'll be terrifying. Just talk to real professional doctor people who can take all this information and put it into context. So I want to myth bust some of the rest of these nutrients because I've already mentioned calcium and vitamin D because they are going to prevent, according to this panel, to prevent or treat glucocorticoid-induced osteoporosis. That is why calcium and vitamin D matter. So what about these other random vitamins and nutrients? Chromium is listed next. Chromium is listed in the well-respected Natural Medicines database as being depleted by prednisone to the same extent as chromium is. So if chromium is listed as being depleted to the same extent as calcium is, and if we've already established that calcium needs to be replenished, then chromium does too. Prednisone is stealing this natural mineral from your body that you need to keep stable blood sugars. And there's lots of evidence proving that this is true. And AI is saying it's not. One of the craziest parts of this AI response is that these supplements can increase the risk of side effects like bone loss. What? Like, we just talked about how calcium and vitamin D are being recommended by doctors to prevent bone loss. And this response is saying they're going to increase the risk of side effects like bone loss. Literally, none of these nutrients could possibly ever do that. Prednisone itself increases the risk of bone loss, but none of these nutrients will ever increase your risk for bone loss. If anything, they're going to help you. Okay, now let's talk about potassium. Potassium has less evidence supporting its effects caused by prednisone. This is another mineral in your body. It's an electrolyte that needs to be in balance with sodium. And so some people get worse swelling and blood pressure changes from prednisone. And that's probably because they're having more sodium and potassium changes that have to do with your renin, aldosterone, angiotensin system. So for some people, potassium is a really important thing. For other people, it's a non-issue. But if you're one of those people who's dealing with swelling, blood pressure issues, heart issues, water weight gain, lots of thirst, urinary changes, then you should definitely talk to your doctor, get your blood tested, make sure your potassium's normal. And then if it isn't, your doctor can prescribe prescription strength potassium supplementation. Or with all of these, you can also improve your dietary intake of them. And when it comes to potassium, that means lots of fruits and vegetables. Next, let's talk about melatonin. This one has a lot of conflicting information if you Google search it with melatonin and prednisone. And it really goes back to your search intent. If you want them to be harmful, that is the answer you will find. If you want them to be helpful, that is the answer you will find. So let's talk about the science of melatonin and prednisone. I've got a whole bunch of videos all about this if you want to go deep, but here's a brief summary. Prednisone is mimicking cortisol, which is your awake hormone that your body secretes when you first wake up in the morning to help you wake up. Melatonin is the sleep hormone that gets high at nighttime. So melatonin is like the moon, cortisol is like the sun. They mimic each other. When one is high, the other is low. And when you take prednisone, you're going off the charts with the cortisol, and the melatonin can't keep up and it is suppressed. And so you often get low melatonin. One study of healthy young men given dexamethasone, a very similar drug to prednisone, it showed that their sleep-wake cycle was completely suppressed. Those are their words. And so melatonin is being affected by prednisone. And that's why the number one tweeted side effect of prednisone is insomnia. Makes perfect sense that you'd want to be replenishing this, either through healthy strategies like turning off screens so that your natural melatonin release is better, getting first morning sunlight, or actually taking a supplementation of melatonin. All of that makes perfect sense. Selenium. Now, selenium is another metal mineral that has conflicting evidence about whether or not prednisone depletes it. And vitamin B6 is the next one that has similar amount of evidence. Some of it shows it does, some of it shows it doesn't deplete vitamin B6. So these are less important, but still relevant nutrients that do not cause bone loss, as this AI summary suggests. They do not cause muscle weakness. In fact, when your B vitamins are fully supported, you tend to have less muscle issues. You tend to have more energy. So weakness would not be a thing caused by vitamin B6 unless you have vitamin B6 deficiency. That would be real. So this summary is so inaccurate. And I have over 100 studies showing the opposite of this actual thing. PubMed studies, scientific literature showing that, in fact, the opposite of this is true. You should be supplementing with calcium, vitamin D, potassium, melatonin, chromium, magnesium, B vitamins, and other things because prednisone does, in fact, deplete them. Prednisone is causing a loss of these vital nutrients in your body, and you need to be giving them back. And that is exactly why when I took prednisone and I felt like a withering, worn out rag, I just felt horrible. And I couldn't understand why until I discovered that prednisone is truly depleting these nutrients. And so I invented a dietary supplement to replenish this. Prednisone is stealing nutrients, and my supplement Nutrinize replenishes those nutrients. It gives back the calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, potassium, and the things that you need to feel like yourself again, to support your bones, to support your metabolism, to support restful sleep. And you can get it at nutrinize.com or on Amazon. Signing off is Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist.